Everyone talks about how amazing Canada is. The stunning landscape, the free healthcare, and the top-notch education system. But let's get real for a second here. Is it really all that is cracked up to be? In 2024, moving to Canada may not be the best decision for everyone. If you are thinking about packing your bags and starting afresh in the Great White North, you would want to watch this video first. Today, I'm going to review top 10 reasons not to move to Canada, and trust me, some of these reasons might surprise you. What really is going on in Canada that might make you think twice about moving here in 2024? Don't get me wrong, it's a great country. I have lived here and seen the positives, but it is not for everyone. In this video, I'll be breaking down real issues that immigrants and newcomers face when they move to Canada. Some of these challenges are growing faster in 2024, and they might make you reconsider your decision to possibly move here. So stick around for the full breakdown, because I'm going to give you some advice on how to navigate these challenges if you've already set your sights on Canada. Number one will be high cost of living. The cost of living in Canada has skyrocketed in recent years, and 2024 is no different. Major cities like Toronto and Vancouver are some of the most expensive places to live in North America. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in downtown Toronto can easily exceed $2,500 a month. Groceries, utilities, and gas prices are all up, and inflation is hitting hard. For example, according to a recent report by CBC, Toronto and Vancouver saw rent prices increase by nearly 20% in the last year alone. And groceries are expected to rise by another 5 to 7% due to global inflation trends. So my advice is, if you are coming to Canada, don't assume you will live in a city center. Research more affordable locations like possibly Halifax, Winnipeg, or even Calgary, and consider your earning potential carefully before making the move. Second one is housing affordability crisis. The housing market in Canada is in crisis mode. Whether you are renting or trying to buy, the prices are just out of control. In cities like Toronto and Vancouver, even a small one-bedroom condo can cost you over $1 million. For students or young professionals, affording even small apartments is becoming a serious problem. Just recently, Global News reported that first-time home buyers in Toronto would need to save for over 20 years to afford a down payment on a home. Just imagine, they would need to just save over 20 years just to afford a down payment. The average home price in Vancouver is now over 1.2 million, making it nearly impossible for newcomers to enter the housing market. If you still want to come in here, consider living in suburban or even rural areas where housing is more affordable. But be warned, these areas might come with fewer job opportunities and longer commutes. But sometimes if you drive, you might be able to reach any part of the city that you are in. The third one is tough job market for immigrants. While Canada is always advertising its need for skilled immigrants, the reality on the ground can be very different. Immigrants often struggle to find jobs that match their qualifications, especially without Canadian experience. Even highly educated professionals can find themselves underemployed, working survival jobs in retail or even food services. A recent report from Toronto Star highlights how many skilled immigrants, despite high qualification, are stuck working low-paying jobs due to barriers like credential recognition and lack of networking opportunities. If you are planning to move, make sure you network very early. Use LinkedIn, professional organizations, and even community groups to make contacts before you make that decision to move here. At least make sure your network is at least strong enough to secure you that job before you make that decision to move. Always be prepared to take courses or certifications to boost your chances in the Canadian market, because sometimes those can compensate for those Canadian experience that you are lacking. So do your research and make sure you identify the gaps that exist between your experience, and the Canadian job market so that you can close it before you make that decision to move here. Number 4, I would say, is long healthcare wait times. And unfortunately, I've been a personal witness to this. Canada's healthcare system is one of the biggest selling points. Free at the point of service, but that does not mean it's without any flaws. Healthcare wait times can be extremely long, especially for specialists or non-surgent procedures. I remember recently having a conversation with one of my colleagues about wanting to see a specialist. And she was like, it's going to take you 6 months. And that's even the earliest time possible. I thought she was joking until I made that move and saw how long I have to wait, which is far different from what experience I have back home. Some people, the wait time can feel unbearable, which might mean that they might not get early healthcare attention for those needs that they might have, which might make them not want to be here because for them, they feel that they need that urgent care. But as long as it might not require surgery, they might have to join the queue, which might be unbearable for them. And just recently, I saw this on CTV News where patients in Ontario are having to wait on average of 25 weeks to see a specialist for non-urgent care procedures. So if you are coming in here, these are some of the things that at least you have to be aware of. Even though the healthcare might be free, it might not be readily available to you for some of those care that you personally might want compared to what you are getting from back home. If you are coming to Canada, my advice is be prepared for potential delays when it comes to getting healthcare services, especially in the public system. It might also be a good idea to consider supplementary private healthcare insurance for faster access to specialists, because sometimes that might be the gateway for you to see some of these specialists. Even though it might cost you more, it might help you to get that early treatment that you've always wanted. Number 5 will be extreme weather conditions. Canada is known for its cold winters, but until you've lived through a minus 30 degrees day, it is hard to truly appreciate how extreme it can get. Winter lasts for nearly 6 months in some parts of the country. I'm currently in Manitoba, and winter sometimes will start from as early as maybe October and go as far back as sometimes even April. That's more than 6 months. And it can really affect your mood, mental health, and general lifestyle if you are not prepared. So if you want to come into Canada, these are some of the things that you have to be aware of. You have to suck yourself up and be prepared to at least face the cold. If it's not something for you, then Canada might not be the place for you. In 2024, the winter forecast predicts harsher than normal conditions in the prairie and eastern Canada areas, which is where we are. As I'm sitting here shooting this video, we are getting ready and bracing for a very harsh winter with frequent snowstorms and frigid temperatures. Sometimes it can get as cold that you can't even pull your hand out of your gloves. I remember my first winter in Canada where we went to see the Christmas tree and I was like, I want to be the one taking pictures. I took my hands out of my gloves for just 5 minutes and I almost got frostbite. I go home and I have to now pay close attention without defrosting my hands and at least hurting myself. If you are not a fan of the cold, consider settling in milder areas like British Columbia coastal regions. And if you are moving to a colder part of the country, make sure to invest in good winter gear. Find indoor hobbies to keep yourself busy, because when the winter comes, if you are not careful, you might feel lonely and end up being depressed. Number 6 are overqualification and credential issues. One of the most frustrating experiences for immigrants is having their foreign degrees and qualifications not recognized in Canada. This problem is especially tough for those in regulated professions like medicine, law, or even engineering, where you may need to retrain or pass numerous exams just to qualify for jobs you are already trained for. Recently published article about how immigrants with advanced degrees are often underemployed, with over 50% of newcomers working in jobs that don't match their qualifications. And this is a reality on the ground. If you are not careful, you'll get here, you might be overqualified for some of the jobs that you have to find yourself in. There's a joke that the best place to get a heart attack in Canada is at a cab conversion, because you have a lot of doctors who are driving cab. So if you get a heart attack at a cab convention, there will definitely be a doctor to take care of you compared to possibly rushing to a hospital, because even doctors are not able to practice. They have to now retrain just to find themselves back into the system. And whilst they are retraining, how do they make money? He is forced possibly to go and drive a cab or Uber just to make ends meet. So before you make the move, research whether your credentials will be recognized and what steps you need to take to get certified in Canada. You may need to enroll in bridging program or even obtain another Canadian experience just to qualify for the jobs in your field. Number 7 is social isolation and homesickness. Canada's multicultural environment is a plus, but it can still be hard to integrate socially. Making friends, building a social network, and feeling connected can take a long time, especially if you are coming from a close-knit community back home. Homesickness can hit hard, and some immigrants feel isolated in their new environment. If you are somebody that this might be important to you, my advice is think about moving to a smaller Canadian town. With a practical example that I'll give you is, I always say Canada is as big as some of these continents that we know of, but has a population of about 40 million, which means that most of the communities are sparsely spread out. And think about this. You move to a small Canadian community with about a population of 5,000 people, you may not find people from your cultural background, which will make it harder to connect with the community. Because as a new immigrant, your first point of call might be finding people that you can share background with to be able to get a soft landing. But if you move to such a community, it might be difficult to find people who share your background to connect with. Because Canada, as we always say, is like an immigrant community, you have diverse groups of people here. And unless you are somebody who is now prepared to be open-minded and embrace other people's cultures, it might be difficult for you. My advice always is, no matter where you find yourself, no matter which community you find yourself in, try joining community groups, cultural organizations, or even using social media to connect with other immigrants. This can help you when it comes to social isolation. Canada has a lot of immigrant support groups that can help you feel connected. So if you are feeling socially isolated, try and reach out to one of these support groups, because they are trained and they are equipped to help you to at least find people that can share common background with you, or they can help you, prepare you to be able to socially integrate in the community that you find yourself, so that you are not isolated. Because with isolation, you end up being depressed, and being depressed might now start affecting your mental and social health. Number 8 will be high tax rates. Canada's high taxes are often a surprise to many new immigrants. While you benefit from things like free healthcare, subsidized education, the tax rates here are some of the highest in the world, especially if you live in provinces like Quebec or even Ontario. Recently, the Financial Post had an article that was saying that Canadian taxes, including income, sales, and property tax, can eat up nearly 42% of an average family's income. So you can just imagine it. Close to half of the money that you might be bringing home will be going back into taxes. So as much as you are enjoying all these benefits, you have to be aware that you are going to pay out of your nose to enjoy those benefits. While taxes are unavoidable, understanding the tax system and planning your finances ahead of time can help in this regard. Also, you might want to consider living in provinces with lower tax rates, such as Alberta, where there's no provincial sales tax. That's why I always advise that when you are coming in, make sure you've done your research and made the decision on wherever you are going, so that making the wrong decision will not only affect your pocket, it might end up affecting you as a person. So make sure you are doing your research, and it should be as detailed as possible, so that whichever place that you decide to land, it will be homely for you and you can enjoy all the benefits that Canada has to offer. Number 9 will be lack of infrastructure in some of the smaller cities. Not everyone moved to Toronto or Vancouver. If you are considering living in smaller city or rural area, you might find the lack of infrastructure shocking. With most of these pathways that are opening up, rural pathways and all that, a lot of people are getting nominated to move to some of these areas. And you'll be shocked to find yourself in those areas and find out that it's lacking infrastructure compared to some of the bigger cities that maybe you landed in or you saw on TV. Limited public transportation, fewer amenities, and less access to healthcare or social services can be a real drawback in some of these areas. So if you are lucky to find yourself going to any of these areas, this is something that you need to prepare yourself for. This is why I always say sometimes getting a car might not be a liability in your case, because if you find yourself in a town where there's no busing system, you now have to drive. Or if you find yourself in a town where even there's limited busing system, then driving might be able to save you some hours and help you to get your destination faster, saving you some time to focus on other things compared to now having to wait at a bus stop for a bus that will be coming, let's say, every 30 minutes or every 45 minutes, because it's a much smaller community and most people are not actually using the bus. So there's no need for the bus to be running as frequently as it will be in a bigger town where a bus is coming almost every 5 minutes. And the truth is now, some of those smaller Canadian towns are struggling to keep up with the growing number of newcomers due to underfunded infrastructure. So don't be shocked when you find yourself in some of these areas and there's limited infrastructure. If you are thinking about moving to a smaller town, do your homework. This is one advice I'll give you. Make sure it has the services that you need and be prepared to drive long distances for things like healthcare, shopping, or even education. Then I remember seeing a video of a Nigerian lady who did a vlog on having to drive from just one town to another just to get her favorite amala food. So just imagine if you are coming from back home where you are enjoying your amala right on the spot or just behind your house, and you have to drive just to another town just to get a taste of your favorite food, sometimes it can hit you harder than you think. Number 10 will be provincial and federal bureaucracies delay. Canada's immigration and bureaucratic processes can be incredibly slow. Whether you are waiting for your permanent residency application to be processed or trying to access social services, the delays can be frustrating. In 2024, this problem has only gotten worse due to backlogs caused by the pandemic. Recently, there was a report that PR applications processing times have increased by up to 25% due to staffing shortages and increased demand. So you can just imagine. So if you are moving to Canada, be prepared for some of these delays. Make sure you are staying on top of your paperwork and keep in constant contact with immigration authorities or legal advisor to make sure your applications are being processed as smoothly as possible. So there you have it, the top reasons you might not want to move to Canada in 2024. Whilst it's a fantastic country with plenty of opportunities, it is important to be aware of these challenges so you can make an informed decision. The high cost of living, job market challenges, extreme weather, and social isolation are just some of the things you need to think about before making that big move. If you are still set on coming to Canada or have more questions about any of these topics, I'm here to help you. You can book a one-on-one session with me using the link in the description area. Let's talk about what's best for you and answer some of your questions that you might have. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more content on life in Canada. And I'll see you in the next video. Until then, cheers.